this close to a championship, and Michael Jordan took it away from me.
Stockton, the Malone, Mailman, hammered up!
What happens when sheer dominance meets a relentless desire for victory, but the ultimate prize remains elusive? One of the most powerful forces the NBA has ever seen, Karl Malone has spent his career chasing an elusive championship. Each time Karl Malone slammed the ball through the hoop with a force that rattled the entire arena, you could see it in his eyes. This was a man chasing immortality. But as the crowd roared and the buzzer sounded, the crown always remained just out of reach. But mastering the game is only half the story. The real question is, what happens when even the greatest can't make the final shot? Let's dive into the rise, dominance, and the heart-wrenching fall of Karl Malone. Karl Malone, known to millions as the Mailman, delivered on the court like no one else. He overpowered defenders, outworked everyone, and seemed unstoppable. Yet with every victory, every MVP, a lingering question haunted him. Why couldn't he claim the one thing that mattered most? In 18 seasons with the Utah Jazz, Malone consistently played both uniforms, won 14 All-Star games, and secured 2 MVP titles. His physicality, accuracy in the post, and relentless scoring made him third on the NBA's all-time scoring list. The elusive NBA championship always slipped through his fingers. Buoyed by his individual brilliance, the Jazz teams made back-to-back finals appearances in 1997 and 1998, falling short both times. He had one last shot with the Lakers in 2004, but fate had other plans. As Malone mastered the art of dominating the paint, the crown of an NBA champion remained elusive. Off the court, Malone's legacy became entangled impersonal that cast a long shadow over his on-court achievements. However, his basketball resume remains undeniably impressive. His contributions to Team USA, where he won 2 Olympic gold medals, and his place on the NBA's 50th and 75th anniversary teams cemented his place among the greats. Inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2010, Wild Malone's impact on basketball forever be etched in history, though his actions off the court have long been debated. Born on July 24, 1963 in Summerfield, Louisiana, Karl Malone grew up as the youngest of 9 children on a farm raised by a single mother. He faced early difficulties with the loss of his father at the age of 14, a tragedy that was not revealed until years later. Malone's childhood was spent doing hard work, chopping wood, farming, hunting, and fishing, while also developing a love for basketball. In high school, he led his team to 3 straight Louisiana Class C titles, setting the stage for future dominance on the court. Choosing Louisiana Tech University closer to home, Malone quickly made his presence known. Although he was unable to play his freshman year due to academic reasons, he turned heads with his play in his sophomore season, averaging 18.7 points and 9.3 rebounds. Under his leadership, Louisiana Tech reached the Sweet 16 of the NCAA tournament for the first time in school history and showed potential for NBA dominance. In the 1985 NBA draft, the Utah Jazz secured the core of their franchise by selecting Karl Malone with the 13th overall pick. What seemed like a great but humble pick quickly turned into one of the biggest draft steals in NBA history. If scouts expected Malone to make a big impact on the league, he would certainly have been picked higher than number 13. For example, the Dallas Mavericks passed on Malone in favor of Detlef Schrempf with the 8th pick. In fact, Malone was so confident the Mavericks would draft him that he had already rented an apartment in Dallas, only to find his plans changed when Utah came calling.
While Karl Malone was the unlucky 13th pick of the 1985 NBA draft, the Jazz were very lucky to have the 6'9" power forward fall to that pick.
From the beginning, Malone displayed a unique blend of physicality, endurance, and work ethic that set him apart. Under head coach Frank Layden, Malone made waves immediately, averaging 14.9 points and 8.9 rebounds per game in his first season. His combination of strength and agility allowed him to establish himself in the post, and he soon became a key component of the Jazz's offensive and defensive schemes. At the end of the season, Malone earned a spot on the 1986 NBA All-Rookie team and finished 3rd in Rookie of the Year voting, early signs of his future dominance. One of Malone's first career highlights came on January 14th, 1986, when the Jazz faced the Houston Rockets, who were riding a 20-game home-winning streak. Malone led the way with 29 points in the dramatic contest, including 4 clutch free throws late in the game that helped the Jazz erase a 96-89 deficit. His grit and unshakable resolve shone through, showcasing the postman's unwavering dependability when his team needed him most. Despite Malone's promising start, his first seasons with the Jazz were met with disappointment in the playoffs. In the 1986 postseason, Utah was swept by the Dallas Mavericks in the first round. While Malone increased his scoring to 20 points per game during the streak, he struggled with efficiency, shooting just 49.6% from the field and allowing his rebounding to improve, albeit at a solid 8.9 per game. The Jazz's postseason woes continued to frustrate both the team and its budding star, but Malone was not one to shy away from challenges. As his sophomore season drew to a close, it was clear that he had emerged as the Jazz's best player. His scoring average rose to 21.7 points per game, while he consistently grabbed 10.4 rebounds, establishing himself as the team leader in both categories. Between February 1st and April 3rd of the 1987 season, Malone led the team in scoring in 24 of 29 games, a testament to his increasing dominance and consistency. No matter how many points he scored, no matter how many records he broke, team success always seemed just out of reach. In the crucial moments as the clock ticked down and the pressure mounted, something was always missing. This pattern would define much of Malone's career. Despite being one of the most powerful forwards the league has ever seen, with an unparalleled ability to pick and choose, Malone's pursuit of a championship always seemed out of reach. He would eventually come around in the late 1990s, leading the Jazz to back-to-back NBA Finals appearances. However, both times he faced a Chicago Bulls dynasty led by none other than Michael Jordan. The 1997 and 1998 finals were etched in NBA lore as Malone's best opportunities to win the crown, but despite his best efforts, the Jazz fell short. What stands out from Malone's early years isn't just his ability to rack up stats, though his 36,128 career points, 2 MVP awards, and 14 All-Star selections speak volumes, but his relentless pursuit of excellence. He mastered the court, creating a persona as a fierce competitor who could dominate physically and mentally. Whether it was his unstoppable mid-range jumper or his impressive presence in the paint, Malone left an indelible mark on the game. Still, the missing jewel in his crown, an NBA championship, remains the focal point of his legacy, adding complexity to the story of one of the game's all-time greats. Despite all the accolades, the elusive title continued to haunt Mailman, a reminder that individual greatness in sports doesn't always translate into team success.
Seattle's come out with much energy. Malone. Karl Malone from John Stockton on the side.
By the 1987-88 season, Karl Malone had fully established himself as the offensive heartbeat of the Utah Jazz. While his accomplice orchestrated the crime with surgical precision, he became the center around which it all unfolded. Malone's raw power, mid-range prowess, and impeccable footwork made him unstoppable in the paint, and his numbers only got better as the seasons progressed. In 1988, Malone made his first All-Star game with an incredible 27.1 points per game. He quickly established himself as one of the strongest forwards in the NBA. This All-Star nod was the first of an impressive 14 consecutive selections. In the 88 All-Star game, he did not disappoint, leading the Western Conference with 22 points, a preview of his recent MVP caliber performances. The Jazz finished third in their division with a 47-35 record and swept the Portland Trailblazers in the first round of the playoffs. However, Malone's story during this period was often about close calls and lessons learned in defeat. The Jazz's 1988 playoff run saw them bow to the eventual champions Los Angeles Lakers in a hard-fought 7-game sweep. Despite Malone's dominant 31-point, 15-rebound performance in Game 7, the Lakers proved too much and went on to win the NBA Finals. Malone's playoff averages, 29.7 points and 11.8 rebounds, were indicative of his growing dominance, but this was another season in which the title eluded him. After that playoff heartbreak, Malone signed a massive 10-year contract worth $18 million during the 1988 season, cementing his place as a franchise cornerstone. His impact on the field was immediate under new head coach Jerry Sloan, who took over mid-season. Malone's 1988-89 season marked his career highs of 29.1 points and 10.7 rebounds per game. Those numbers earned him his first All-NBA first-team selection. But once again, despite Malone's stellar regular season performance, the Jazz were swept by the Golden State Warriors in the first round of the playoffs. The 1989-90 season was a turning point in Malone's career. His scoring was a career-high 31 points per game, along with 11.1 rebounds. On several occasions, he posted jaw-dropping stats, including a career-best 61 points against the Charlotte Hornets against the Milwaukee Bucks, where he had 17 rebounds and 21 of 26 field goals. Despite sitting out the All-Star game with an ankle injury, his dominance was clear. He led Utah to a 55-27 record, only to see their postseason dreams dashed again as the Jazz lost in 5 games to the Phoenix Suns in the first round of the playoffs. As Malone's legend grew, so did his title hunger. In the 1990-91 season, he averaged 29 points and 11.8 rebounds per game, cementing his place as one of the league's most unstoppable forces. Once again, the Jazz made a solid playoff run, but fell to the Portland Trail Blazers in the second round. It was during this period that the Malone-Stockton pick-and-roll became the most feared offensive weapon in the league. But year after year, the postman continued to deliver the statistical report without receiving the final package, the NBA championship. In the 1991 or 92 season, Malone was at the peak of his powers. Averaging 28 points per game, he pushed the Jazz to their first ever Western Conference Finals. It seemed like destiny was finally on his side, but what if things had played out just a little differently? Malone's postseason runs in both 1994 and 1995 were marred by heartbreak. The Jazz made another Western Conference Finals in 94, but lost to Houston in Game 2 despite Malone's 32-point effort. The following year, despite a franchise record 60 wins, Utah was again ousted by the Rockets, this time in first place. By 1996, Malone had joined the elite ranks of players with over 20,000 career points, yet the elusive championship still danced just out of reach. Enter the 1996-97 season, where Malone, fresh off an Olympic gold medal, led the Jazz to a franchise-best 64-18 record and won his first MVP with 27.4 points per game. Malone and the Jazz dominated the playoffs, sweeping the Clippers and dispatching the Lakers before outlasting the Rockets in 6 games to capture the Western Conference Championship. It was finally Malone's first NBA Finals after years of hard work. In the 1997 Finals, Malone faced defending champion Michael Jordan's Chicago Bulls. It was a clash of the Titans, two of the league's most dominant forces going head-to-head, but the finals were a series of heartaches for Malone. After missing the first 2 games at the United Center, Malone struggled in Game 2, shooting just 6 for 20 from the field. However, he went on to score 37 points in the next 2 games at the Delta Center, followed by 23 points in Game 3 and 23 points in Game 4, including a crucial fast break that clinched a thrilling victory. However, the momentum swung back in Chicago's favor, and the Bulls took the series in 6 games. Determined as ever, Malone returned with a vengeance in the 1997-98 season. He averaged 27 points per game, narrowly missing out on his second MVP award behind Jordan. But that didn't stop the Jazz from once again claiming first place in the Western Conference with a 62-20 record, the best in the NBA. The playoffs were another triumph for Malone as Utah swept the Rockets, Spurs, and Lakers, setting up a second straight meeting with the Bulls in the finals. And this time, Jazz started strong. Malone dropped 21 points in Game 1 to lead Utah to an 88-85 victory. But as the series wore on, Chicago's defense began to tire him out. Still, Malone shined in Game 5, putting up a blistering 39-point performance and shooting 17 for 27 from the field as the Jazz beat Chicago 83-81 at home. His mid-range jumpers, a hallmark of his offensive arsenal, were almost unstoppable that night. Game 6, 86-85, the Jazz clinging to a narrow lead, just seconds left. Malone, carrying Utah on his back, lost the ball in the post. Michael Jordan jumped in for a steal and set up a layup that is often considered the greatest shot of his career, sealing the Bulls' 6th championship. Malone, despite a 31-point, 11-rebound effort, watched his chance to finally capture the crown slip away once again. Karl Malone mastered the NBA court. His mid-range shooting, brute force in the paint, and pick-and-roll mastery with Stockton made him one of the most feared and consistent players of his era. However, the ultimate prize, an NBA championship, remained elusive. Despite back-to-back Western Conference titles, MVP awards, and countless playoff victories, Malone's legacy is forever overshadowed by the near misses in the finals, where he fought valiantly but fell short. His quest for that final delivery, a championship, would continue, but Mailman, for all his legendary dominance, failed to deliver the one package that mattered most. By 1998, Karl Malone had already established himself as one of the most dominant forces in NBA history. But as the seasons went by, his quest for a championship ring remained elusive. During the lockout-shortened 1998-99 season, Malone expressed his displeasure with the Jazz, feeling disrespected by both the organization and the local media. Although he initially threatened to leave, he eventually stayed, and his loyalty paid off with a second MVP award. Malone's brilliance shined once again as he led the Jazz to a 37-13 record, but his title dreams were cut short as Utah was swept by Portland in the second round of the playoffs. Malone's 23-point effort in Game 5 wasn't enough to save the streak, and tensions rose after multiple incidents involving Portland, in which Malone was fined. Despite his advancing age, Malone's production never wavered, averaging 20 points per game in his final seasons with the Jazz. By 2003, he had not only passed Wilt Chamberlain on the all-time scoring list, but cemented his place as one of the league's all-time greats. However, the Jazz fell out of title contention, and Malone became a free agent after Stockton retired. In 2003, Malone made one last bid for a championship by joining the star-studded Los Angeles Lakers. Loaded with talent, the team looked poised for a championship run, starting the season with an 18-3 record. But a knee injury sidelined Malone for 39 games, and his desire to win a ring once again slipped through his fingers as he returned for the playoffs. Despite averaging 11.5 points and 8.8 rebounds in the postseason and providing critical defense, the Lakers were defeated by the Detroit Pistons in the 2004 NBA Finals. Battling injury, Malone missed the decisive Game 5, ending his career without that elusive championship. Karl Malone's legacy is defined by his dominance and consistency on the court. As one of the NBA's most powerful forwards, his scoring, rebounding, and leadership set the standard. Although a championship eluded him, 2 MVPs and more than 36,000 points solidify his place in basketball history. Even after his playing days, Malone's influence remains, leaving an indelible mark on the sport and inspiring generations to come.